This podcast is proudly sponsored by Last Blade Standing. Now in its third season, Last Blade Standing will feature the work of 64 bladesmiths from across the United States. In this season's 90-day short sword challenge, the bladesmiths include 10 Forged in Fire champions and both returning Last Blade Standing champions. The competition features special guests Ben Abbott, Forged in Fire Super Champion, as a competitor, and David Baker, Forged in Fire Judge, as the lead judge for this season. Join us for the live finale in Salisbury, North Carolina on February 25th, 2023. General admission tickets are available now at tickets.lastbladestanding.com. Last Blade Standing Season 3 is sponsored in part by Broadbeck Ironworks, Red Label Abrasives, Online Metals, Maker Material Supply, and Steel Stamps Incorporated. Get ready for Last Blade Standing, the bladesmithing competition.
Hey guys, what was your source of inspiration when you first decided to make knives? You know, many go to the books and also some go to the web, but many also head to YouTube for videos. Well, you know, we are fortunate enough to have Eric Rivers from the Rivers Experience as a co-host on the Knives Templars. But you know what? He's also a sponsor. And I tell you, 27,000 followers can't be wrong in following his skilled and educational regular videos that teach the fine arts of making beautiful knives. I know because I'm a subscriber to his channel and I learned at my pace and without making those mistakes by walking in the dark regarding knife making. Be sure and check out his channel, The Rivers Experience, on YouTube, or his website at theriversexperience.com. And now back to our show.
3, 2, 1, 0, 0.
You're listening to the Knives Templars.
Get ready, y'all. We about to Bobby Boucher you. Bam!
I got a piece off of the wagon that Sam Houston used to take JFK to the moon.
Pinto sauce. I like that. Pinto sauce.
Pinto sauce. You're tuned in to the Knives Templars podcast, featuring Odisir Special Sauce Pinto.
I was a mean kid.
Long time listener, first time caller.
Eric T.R.E. Rivers.
Holy crap, I built something.
Don the Train Watson.
I can pay off all my credit cards and beef jerky credit line at Buc-ee's.
Joey the Riot Terrier.
Cochon de lait will make you smack your lips and anyone getting too close to your plate.
Mark Vasallo.
You drinking my soupy?
And Chip Shegman Carlisle. And now broadcasting alive, it's the Knives Templars. Coming to you live from Porkhouse Studios located in Hartselle, Alabama and other U.S. locations. This is the Knives Templars podcast. We are the coolest knife-making podcast on the planet, and we are downloaded around this big blue marble in over 24 countries. We are on air, on demand, and heard worldwide in all of your favorite apps and at knivestemplars.com. Hey guys, welcome to Season 3, Episode 26 of the Knives Templar podcast. I'm Chip Carlisle, your host, and I'm here with 4 other excellent guests, a Maker's Mark guest, and Odisir is out there hanging on a Chinese balloon somewhere trying to drop back into the podcast. We lost him there, but if you hear him drop in, thunk, we know that he made it back in. Tonight, I'm joined by my good friends, and I'll start with the first one, Mr. Eric Rivers from the Rivers Experience. Eric, how's it going?
Man, it's going great over here. How y'all doing?
You making some knives?
Absolutely.
Man,
Better believe it.
I've been watching you. I love that little banana you just made. We'll talk about it later, but that banana's cool. That's when you actually want to make a banana, right?
Correct.
So,
you don't want banana, you're banana.
And then I've got Mark Vasillo. Mark, what's going on down there in South Alabama?
Hey, how you doing, Chip? It's well, I think the word of the day or the word of the month is Mardi Gras. So I have been busy for 17 hours a day, except for today.
Is this coming Tuesday, Fat Tuesday?
It is.
Excellent. You know what happens on Fat Tuesday up in the Midwest? I'm not sure about down in your area, but do y'all have Punchki Day? Does that ring a bell, Joey Terrier?
Say that again, Chip?
Well, I've seen my friends from Poland talking about it. Punchki is like a 5,000 calorie donut, cream-filled donut that's filled with all kinds of good stuff. And it is like the best thing in the world. And when you're 23, you can eat 5 or 6 of them. When you're my age, you eat one and you can't put your shoes back on afterwards because you just
Yeah.
start gaining
Yeah,
weight.
we have that down here. We call it a king cake.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So a punchki looks like a giant filled donut with creams or jellies or apple fillings or other fruit fillings, and they're usually powdered or sugared, and the glaze, and they're huge. And Fat Tuesdays, when you take everything you got, cook it and enjoy it before the season of Lent starts. So, Don the Train Watson, what do y'all like? Tripping the alligator or doing something with alligators down there for Fat Tuesday? What do you do in Florida for Fat Tuesday?
We don't have that down here, Chip. We don't. For me, it's Tuesday every week, man. Every day for me.
Huh. Oh, that's right. You're retired.
Yeah, man, I don't even know what day it is, man. I can't keep track of it.
Well, everybody
Really,
retires to
seriously.
Florida. Everybody retires to Florida. So you need to find somebody with the last name that ends in SKY or SZY
Mm-hmm.
and ask them for a punchki tomorrow. So cool.
Okay, I can do
Mentioned
that.
Joey
Thanks.
was asking him about that. Joey, you've been making some knives. You've been putting them out about one a day, it seems like. You've gone crazy since you built that new house and moved in. Now you're knife
Yeah.
man again.
Yeah, just trying to catch up, man. Finally, I had a bunch in different stages, and I just started grabbing whatever I saw and just started putting it out.
So you saw some chopsticks and you just grabbed them and hammered them into a knife and just.
Yeah, just
Where are you
no,
coming up with?
I
I'm
had them
joking, of
all
course.
in. What's that?
I said I'm joking, of course. Where are you coming up with these beautiful designs?
As you all know, I use knife print. I
Mm-hmm.
just draw it on. I get it on paper first, and then I import it into knife print, and then I tweak it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I find it's a good tool. It helps with it helps with refining, and it helps too if you want to, go to production with that knife. If that's something you're going to make all the time,
Yeah.
you can get it. You can save it in a DXF file and have it water jetted.
I also saw that they will water jet knives for you and send them to you as well. I heard on a
Yeah.
recent episode. So, hey, do y'all hear that? Sounds like something's falling out of the sky.
Oh yeah, it's Pinto.
It is Pinto.
Hey,
Oh no, no!
no.
I thought that was a balloon. That's his head. I thought there was another balloon in the sky. Pinto, Otis here, Pinto. Welcome to the cast, my friend.
Welcome.
I can't hear a word Pinto's saying. His lips are moving, but nothing's there.
Can you translate? Somebody can read his lips and decide what he's saying.
Somebody read his lips. He's saying, I don't know. Help me out here. He's saying, no more jalapeno poppers. My hiney is on fire. All right. Well, we'll see if we get him come back in. So
Might
we
be
will
done
just
reading.
keep trying. So for the guys that are alive on the show tonight, and Otis here will be in. We've had some technical issues with him lately. I just want you to know that we are glad. We are glad that you are here and that you're a part of the Knives Templar Nation as it's growing. You can hear us in over 24 countries. I just want to thank the listeners for the best rising podcast on the planet. Guys, I got something for you tonight. I'm been working pretty hard the past week. I have ordered new hats, grinding belts, pin stock. I got some files this week, gun stock files, and I've been having a blast with that. So I've been filling up my shop and driving my wife crazy with the bills coming in. But what do you guys had rolling into your shop lately?
I got some abrasives here.
Yeah.
Recently. Yeah.
Did you get those from Phoenix Abrasives using your Templars 10 discount?
I'm sad to say I didn't.
That's not the right answer. That's not the right answer. But
I got them from Pops. And they didn't have the belts. The only reason I didn't is because they didn't have the belts I wanted. But that and some Endasa. Yep.
Some
That's
Rhino
what I
Wet.
got here lately.
Good stuff.
Yep.
Mark, what you had rolling into your shop?
Actually, after I heard your the last podcast that I didn't, I missed you guys in the last podcast, but
Right.
after I heard that, I went out and got one of those 1x30 leather stropping belts.
Yeah.
And really, it just came in today, so I was out running before the podcast, trying it out, and honing up my, one of my knives. So
I don't know if you can see my thumb right there, but I will tell you that is a game changer for me. I love that. Somebody's going to have to tell Eric Rivers about those leather stropping belts. They're pretty cool. Eric, have you ever tried one? Or if you haven't, you've got to try one.
I would say I definitely have tried a couple in my knife making career, especially seeing how they're one of my sponsors.
and every time that you sharpen a knife on the Rivers Experience, it's kind of like, okay, now I'm going to take it and hone it down with this, just a couple light passes, and then you're slicing air in half. I see Otis here has dropped back in. He's moving, but he's not making noises. All right, well, we're going to check back with him in a minute. So while we're waiting on that, have you guys been out to knivestemplars.com?
Yeah.
How do you like the new website?
It's awesome.
It is awesome.
Real nice. Good, man.
Man, we've pulled it together. I'm telling everybody, if you go out to knivestemplars.com, you'll be able to see Otis here's pretty face. We'll maybe have to put a video up of him talking, since we can't get him talking tonight. But we have our sponsors out there. We've got opportunities for product reviews, a little bit about each one of us and things that are coming up. And we've also got some merchandise out there. And if you want to know more about the show, it's a great place to go, and you can even listen to the show from there while you're sitting at work on your computer. So, guys, we got the menu tonight. Anybody want to hear the menu?
Let's do it.
Yeah, I like it.
All right. Well, we've got the brew review, and sadly, we don't have our beer slinger, Luke Berry, with us anymore, but he worked at a brewery as one of his jobs, so he was always useful there. Would give us some beer knowledge, but I'll give it my best. We've also got some news and useful information. I've got some great news to share with you tonight. It's all about upcoming shows, and then we've got some feedback. I'm excited, man. We're growing. I got some feedback from some listeners this past week. We've got the Pops Maker's Mark show guest, and our guest tonight, I'm going to go ahead and tell you his name. He is a Season 7, Episode 16 champion from Forged in Fire, and his name is Scott Sweeter, and he's calling in from Montana tonight. And the neat thing about that is we're all connecting at this upload at about 720p, and we've been joking because he's coming in at like 2000p. So we think that he's getting his internet from a Chinese balloon or something, or either he's not competing with anybody out there, because it's just Scott that lives out there in Montana, nobody else. So I've also excited to let you know we've got the Knives Templar Tips with Jason Fry. Man, Jason's been adding a lot to our podcast lately. He's been recording tips for us that he's taking from his book. I encourage you to go out and take a look at his book and maybe get yourself a copy, but also listen to the tips that he's putting out for us here on the Knives Templars. We've got some topics to talk about, and then we're going to close her on out and take her back home. And I'm going to do some editing this weekend and get it out on Monday. But you guys ready for the brew review?
Let's do it.
Chip.
Here we go. So I will go around the table real quick. Eric, you got some Spreet tonight?
I have got some wonderful Coca-Cola.
He's drinking Coca-Cola tonight. Mark?
Did he say Coca-Cola?
Are you drinking Coca-Cola?
Coca-Cola, the good old Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola. I know that Don's drinking his cow. Cow.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Mark is all excited. He's jumping up and down with his hand waving. Mark, what you drinking?
Oh, no, I'm not waving my hand. I'm just trying to pop another beer here. This is I got a Fat Tire going tonight.
A Fat Tire. Well, you better savor that, because that's the old recipe, and the new recipe, Fat Tire. It's kind of like old and new Coke. They're going to destroy it. I don't know why they changed the recipe, but you're drinking the last of a brew because they've got version 2 that's coming out. Joey,
Well,
you got a styrofoam. You don't have a styrofoam cup tonight?
I do. I have a styrofoam cup, as always.
Yeah.
And this time I changed it up. I got some Maker's Mark 46.
Yeah. You got some top shelf Maker's Mark.
Yeah.
I've been by that. I've been by that distillery up there. I need to stop in sometime when I'm heading up to Lexington.
It's smooth, man. Wow. It's smooth.
Oh,
A lot smoother than the Knob Creek.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
So I am wondering, I see Otis here sitting there biting his lip. Are you with us, Otis here? And he's gone.
And he's having an episode. He's having an episode like Eric that one night. He's
Yeah.
like, Eric.
Well,
Yeah.
this episode is sponsored by Otis Sears Internet Connection. So I am drinking actually some Maker's Mark myself, celebrating with a little Maker's Mark. And I know that looks like a giant glass, but I did tame this Maker's Mark down with a little bit of Coca-Cola as well. And it tastes very good. But what I want to tell you about is a very, very, very special brew. Who knows who Judge Roy Bean is?
Oh yeah, I know him.
Who's Judge Roy Bean?
He was what, Arizona judge, and it was Arizona.
Was he a
Once
hanging
shot a
judge?
man for snoring.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Well, I've got
Paul Newman, baby. Paul Newman.
Yeah,
baby.
yeah. This past week, I went out and found, a week and a half ago, I found on the road. I was over in Georgia. I came across a can of Judge Roy Bean. And I'll tell you what the brewer says about it. Now, this is they say it's a bean coffee stout. And the brewer says it's an American stout brewed in collaboration with his good friends at Fairhope Roasting Company, whose house blend is cold brewed and added to this already decadent brew. This beer is our tribute to the beloved Eastern Shore landmark, and much like the old days at the Bean, we think you'll love spending your holiday with Judge Roy Bean. I didn't make the connection to shooting the man for snoring, something about the East Coast landmark and Judge Roy Bean. But I did have it because, number one, it was a couple things I enjoy: a cold beer, a stout, and coffee. That's like eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner all in one meal. Anyway, here I am. This beer to me, it was rated a B plus, and so I thought I'd try it, given my love of stouts. When I first took a drink, it took me back to where Grandpa would wake me up on the morning with that smell of familiarity in the air. What did we smell when Grandpa was up in the morning?
Coffee and bacon.
Coffee, that's right. So I was a small boy of 5 or 6, and I laid on that blanket pad on a cold wooden floor of the mountain house because I was spending the night. I'd watch Grandpa put a big old pot on the stove and then pump that well spigot over the sink because they didn't have the type of plumbing they do these days. And he'd pump that thing and water'd come out rusty, and eventually it turned clear, and it'd make a splashing noise when it was hitting that thin pot that he was putting it in. He put it on the gas stove, and as it lit, I could hear it going click, 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 and then the fire would, and it would start. I then smelled that coffee as it reached into that cotton sack, and he grabbed himself a couple handfuls of coffee out of that, and he tossed them in that open pot. Now, this Grandpa used to just go dip his cup into the pot. So when he drank, he was always picking coffee grinds out of his teeth. That's about the time I got up and we sat at the table listening to early morning gospel. Paul would get me a plate with a scrambled egg, a piece of white bread, and some salted country pork from that hog that he'd killed last season. He would always ask me if I wanted coffee, and I'd say, yes, Paul. He'd give me some hot powdered cocoa and warm milk. He'd pour me just a splash of his coffee that he had just dipped out of the pot. And I want to tell you, that's what this is. That's what it tastes like.
Wow.
So I'm just going to tell you a straightforward review. It was a simple, straightforward beer. It poured
That's
the expected black. It was black. It was unexpectedly had a big topper of light tan foam on the top, but it kicked back and ends with a skim island and a thick ring at the top. It had a great aroma, and you could taste that bitter malt and kind of a coffee taste in it, kind of oily notes of coffee, but it was very bright. Had clean flavors, no resin build, a light body, just sealed the deal. So I'm not sure how.
a little cream in there. Was it a little creamy?
It was a
flavor?
little bit creamy. I'm not sure how I really feel about it. I'd just say I recommend it if you come across a can of Judge Roy Bean. So I'm going to give it 4.5 hops. And that's because
Yeah.
because I loved Paw Paw. So did y'all have a Paw Paw?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you call your grandfather, Eric?
So I've got a lot of them, but just Grandpa, and then I have one that's called Paps.
Yeah.
Good old Meemaw and Paps.
Meemaw and Paps. What about you, Mark? What'd you call your?
It was I think it was Pajan. So that was him.
Italian.
Pajan. Yep.
Italian.
It
Don?
was.
Paw Paw.
Joey says, I mean, let me guess here. No, I'm not going to. I was trying to come up with something Cajun, but I can't. So,
I don't know. I call him Pappy and Nana.
Pappy, that works. And Nana?
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Otis here called his pawpaw Lola.
Nah.
Because she danced like a woman and she drinks like a man. I don't know. How's that song go, Lola? No. What'd you call your pop, Otis here? Your pawpaw?
Vovô.
And what is that? Is that Brazilian for
Short. This is short for avô, which is grandfather in Portuguese.
Avô. I got you.
Okay.
So vovô.
And then some of us on here, I called mine Pawpaw, and then my other grandfather passed away back in the 50s, so I never met him. Don, what's your Pawpaw name?
Same as you, Chip. Paw Paw. Both of them.
No, I'm not Pawpaw. I'm Poppy.
You Poppy?
I'm Poppy. I wanted to be Paw. I wanted to be Pawpaw.
Yeah. Hey, that's what we got. One of the guys that works with us, we call him Peepaw.
Yeah, I wanted to be Pawpaw, and all of a sudden they started calling me Poppy, and I couldn't change. And the bad thing is, that's what they called my kids called my father Poppy, and I didn't want to be the same as my dad. But anyway, the most important title in the world is what your grandchildren bestow on you, and I'm Poppy. Anyway, go out and get you one of those beers if you come across it. Guys, I got some news and useful information tonight. I'm just going to go back and reiterate a little bit. On Saturday, February 25th, Last Blade Standings coming up shortly from historic Forging School in Salisbury, North Carolina, owned and operated by Season 2 champion Jeremy Fulton of Norse Forged. 64 smiths have entered, and only one will be crowned champion, featuring competitors from across the nation, including Ben Abbott, undefeated judge from Forged in Fire. Last Blade Standing Season 3 is geared up to be the biggest yet. Go to lastbladestanding.com to find tickets and information about attending the show in Salisbury, North Carolina. And I believe our buddy Scott is on here. He'll probably tell us a little bit. I think he made a blade for Last Blade Standing, if I'm not mistaken. And he can tell us about that. I know the outcome of that, and I see nothing wrong with that. But Scott, we'll talk about it later. He's in the noise booth right now. He can hear us, but we can't hear him.
He's in the green room.
Yes, the green room. So I have something exciting because I about got swindled out of $800 this week trying to buy a 120-year-old anvil off of Facebook, and turned out it was somebody that was unsavourably trying to sell a anvil. But the good news is I didn't get taken. I was smart, and I appreciate you guys for your guidance on that. Man, if it had been a real deal, that'd have been a nice anvil to have. But on March 31st, April 1st and 2nd, we don't want to miss the 34th annual Batson Bladesmithing Symposium and Knife Show conducted at Tannehill Ironworks Historical State Park in McCalla, Alabama. That's over near Tuscaloosa, for you folks that aren't Alabama fans. There's going to be a knife show and demonstrations with food and hands-on learning for just a little extra fee. Our buddy Josh is going to be out there cooking a pig this year, so I will tell you, if you can make it, come out there and try some of that whole pig he's going to cook. And additionally, I know there'll be a forge out there, and I've got some Templars alumni here that are going to walk me around and help me put my hands on a perfect one. So I'm bringing my ball bearing so I can ball bearing all the ambles while I'm out there.
Check all the rebound.
Yep. That's right. And coming up, I think we've got about 30 days left. Blade Show, Texas. I think Joey's going to be out at Blade Show. Eric's going to be out at Blade Show. And that's from the same folks that bring you Blade Show Atlanta, which is the world's largest knife show. They're going to have a 2-day celebration of knives and cowboy creations in the heart of Texas. There'll be over 300 exhibitors of custom and factory knives. Watch free knife demos, become a part of the knife community. It's going to be held at the Fort Worth Convention Center. That's March 17th and 18th. See Blade Show, their website, or on Facebook to find out about tickets and costs to get in. Joey.
You also have April, I believe it's the first weekend in April, Belleville, Texas, the Belleville, Texas show.
That's right. Tell us about that.
Yeah. It's Cowboy, I think
Szymanski.
Yeah, is who puts on the show. I've never been, so this will be my first year. I believe former co-host of ours, he has gone, Chris.
Yeah.
So So if
you need to send him the link, a link. Have him pop in here tonight just to say hello.
Are y'all going to be? Are you going to have a table there? Are y'all going to be showing there? Cool.
Yep.
That's cool. And now I know why you're making all those beautiful knives.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you're going to be wonderful.
Some knives to put on the table.
Yeah. You know, Eric and I got all giddy about the English leather guy and his, and I think Otis here was there last year at Blade Show showing us all these beautiful sheaths. So this guy's just there selling sheaths. I'm telling you, Joey, please do make your knives, but with your capabilities, your sheaths with those knives are going to move them because, man, they're just works of art. That's all I got to say about that.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Chip. Appreciate that.
Yeah, Goonie Goohoo.
Amen.
Yep.
Goonie Goohoo. Otis, are you still with us? Man, this is going to be so fun trying to fit you into the when I do the editing of this podcast. He's in, he's out, he's in.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. You shouldn't have any issues now. I mean, I'm on the app now.
Oh, are you? Well, you look good. You look good, and you sound good too.
Thank you. Do my best. I shaved my head.
I noticed your head looked especially clean, and I'm not being funny. It was like, but when you first came on, I was like, not shiny or anything. It's just like you can tell you can tell a guy that's got hair when he gets a haircut. For some reason, you just look polished today, and I don't know. And I don't mean polished head. I mean you just look all cleaned up.
Clean.
Otis here. Speaking of hardened steel, I saw you riding an old Cannon this past week in some photos, weren't you? That's some nice news. Tell us about that. What were you doing?
Yeah, I took a quick drive with my wife. Not quick. I mean, it took us all day to go and come back. But we went to this spot in Virginia where we found this little park where they have an artillery piece from an old battleship.
Yeah.
And we were able to get an up close look at that thing, and it is massive. A massive barrel. I can probably crawl through it. If you put a lot of butter on me, I can probably go from one end to another. The round alone, you saw the size of that thing. I think it is written there. There's a 2,000-pound round coming out of that barrel with a range of 25 miles.
Can I say one thing?
So yeah,
You
it's
look
a
like
big boy.
Slim riding the atom bomb down to the earth in that movie, Dr. Strangelove. I was like,
Yeah, it was fun. It was something unique to
yeah,
see.
it was cool.
Yeah.
It was cool. Well, guys, last episode we reported on an angry turkey. And this past week, I decided not to bring it to the show because it resulted in a death. But there was a gentleman in his 90s that was killed by his rooster this past week. I was like, the heck with the avian influenza. These birds are crazy. The thing is that this guy had his rooster out and it spurred him and he bled to death. Had a heart attack and bled to death. So anyway, if you've got birds,
Come
Jeez.
again.
I know. If you've got birds around the house, watch out. I know our buddy Scott that's going to be on. He's got grizzly bears probably running around him, or at least some lions. And I bet he don't sweat the turkeys and the chickens. But I'm telling you, Scott, when you come on here, we're gonna let you know that got to watch them birds. Guys, you want some feedback?
Let's
Go
hear
for
it.
Let's
Yeah,
do
let's-
it.
Let's
Do
go.
it.
Well, I'll tell you what. We'll be right back in just a moment. And we'll have some feedback for you. We'll be right back.
My name is Andrew Hooper with Breakthrough Blades, and I never miss the Knives Templars podcast.
Hey listeners, let's take a moment today to thank one of our sponsors for today's show, and that sponsor is Ameribraid Grinders. Eric and Kevin over at Ameribraid have sold thousands of these grinders, and they are super nice guys, and their customer service is excellent. I would know. I've been personally using their 2x72 grinder now for 2 years, and it has changed my knife making to a whole new level. So if you're in the market for or looking to upgrade from that 1x30 or 2x42, then give Ameribraid a look. There you'll find they have 3 packages of grinders to offer. They have a mastery package, a foundations package, and a get grinding package, in which all of them come at different price points. So I'm sure you'll find something that'll suit your needs as a knife maker. Also, Ameribraid has a ton of innovative attachments for their grinders. So listeners, you can find out about all of this at www.ameribraid.com. Go give them a look, see what they have to offer today. And now, back to the show.
So I do want to remind you guys that if you go over to Ameribraid, they've got 3 packages. They've got, what are those packages, Joey, over at Ameribraid?
They got the Select, the Mastery, and the, help me out here, Chip.
Get grinding.
Get grinding.
Get grinding.
Get grinding.
Yeah,
grinding,
get grinding. You've and if you buy the higher 2 levels, you get the horizontal machine, and if you put in Templars 100 through April, they're going to give you $100 off on a machine. So guys, go out and take advantage of that and visit our buddies over at Ameribraid.com.
So quick little interrupt on that. I had a couple of people comment on one of my videos wondering why I was wearing a Ameribraid shirt and not using an Ameribraid grinder. A lot of people don't know this, but Ameribraid, they sell a lot of other things than just grinders. You can get your abrasives, you can get all kinds of stuff there, and I get my abrasives from them.
Oh yeah, yeah. They are they're a great company and they are innovative as heck. So I do enjoy shopping from Ameribraid. So hey guys, here's the feedback we've got this week. We've got one guy that comes in with the name of Boo Diggity. Does he live down your way, Joey?
Bo Diggity, yep. Bo
No, he's
Diggity.
got Boo Diggity.
Oh, Boo Diggity.
That's his cousin.
He says he's out in the yard trying to catch a chicken for the gumbo right now.
Yeah, that sounds like somebody would be chasing it.
He
Boo
says,
Diggity.
love the show, laugh out loud, or lots of love. I don't know what his LOL means. My father did once send a email to someone that had passed away with LOL, and I'm like, Dad, it doesn't mean lots of love. That's a whole other argument. But he says, love the show, LOL. I was awarded an I pooped in the woods merit badge a few years ago.
Yeah, he's definitely Boo Diggity.
You were on spot with your training requirements. Keep providing great information for us forest people.
Yeah.
And I pooped in the woods merit badge.
That's awesome.
I would wear that. I would wear that. And then we've got Jim. Jim says, I spent my 47th birthday Monday with a friend learning the basics of forging metal. His setup is a coal forge with a manual crank. I felt like it was both a lesson on hard work and history. I have an even more profound respect for each of you who has mastered this craft. As I start my journey with the end goal of making my own personal knife, I am listening to the show. The advice and suggestions are invaluable, especially for someone coming out of my perspective. After 5 hours, I happily went home with a decorative fire poker that I made with my own two hands. And I'm not done. Thank you again for everyone's input, expertise, and passion in this craft. That's Jim.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah,
Awesome.
man, that's great to hear.
Thank you, Jim.
It's great to hear. Jim'sFirePokers.com.
There you go.
That's great, Jim. I tell you what, first thing I made was a fire poker too, and it was just actually for my forge, but it was a piece of rebar, and I hammered it out, and I still use it. I was proud of it. And I don't have a wood forge that I use anymore, but I still use it to drag things out of my gas forge, and it's still a valued tool. I tell you what, let's take another quick break and hear from our friends that help us to forge. Be right back.
Majestic Forge is owned and operated by Brian and Kayla Horn in Rushville, Ohio. With many years of experience manufacturing 2 to 5 burner gas forges, Majestic Forge is your #1 source for blacksmith forges, farrier forges, and specialty forges. They are dedicated to creating top-of-the-line forges at a price you can afford. Majestic Forge has supplied forges to blacksmith schools, high schools, colleges, production shops, and TV shows such as Mythbusters. And Majestic Forge is the forge of choice for televisions forged in fire. Knife makers are in luck as they offer forges that come with 2 or 3 deluxe burners. Here at Knives Templars, we are sure that you can find a USA-made Majestic Forge to suit your needs. Check out your next forge at majesticforge.com.
All right, well, welcome back. I tell you what, you can't go wrong with a Majestic Forge. There's a few of us that use them here on the show, and whether you buy the single or the 3 burner, keep in mind that you'll have to get a if you get the 3 burner, you're probably going to have to get a 100-gallon tank, 30-gallon for a 2 burner, and you can likely use just a grill size tank if you're using the single burner, but those are great machines and good at heating up metal fast, and they're good on gas. They don't put you out of pocket too bad. Guys, you ready for some Pops Maker's Mark?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
That almost sounds like I'm getting ready to serve some drinks, doesn't it?
It does.
You want some Pops Maker's Mark? You're not getting any Poppy's Maker's Mark. You're getting Pops
Pappy's Maker's Mark.
We have a special guest on tonight. He's a Forge and Fire champion, and he was on Last Blade Standing, and his name is Scott Sweeter. How are you tonight, Scott?
Oh, I'm doing great.
Good. We're talking to you from the great state of Montana, and not only do you make knives, you make many things, because people can find you on IronBearKnifeForge.com. Is that correct?
Iron Bear Knife and Forge, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I'm glad you said that. I'll have it in the show notes, but yeah, IronBearKnifeandForge.com. So he does a lot. Scott, tell us a little bit about yourself. And like I said, I know recently I saw you on Last Blade Standing. Regarding,
unfortunately, there I proved how I sometimes can't use a tape measure.
Yeah,
I had my sword came in 1 inch past the limits, so I lost before I even started the competition. But
They were
it all goes to charity, so I was happy to send a sword in.
Yeah, and where the charity this season is, it's a children's cancer hospital, I believe.
Yes, yes, I
Yeah,
believe
that's
so.
yeah. Last Blade Standing, we had them on the episode a few episodes back, and the contestants get to choose, and that's wonderful to hear. So, tell us a little bit about Scott and your adventures into knife making and being a blacksmith and forging, and how you got there. We'd love to hear it.
I started metalwork back in college, jewelry design and sculpture work, um, and I've worked as a professional goldsmith. Um, I went to a blacksmithing seminar with Tim Zawada, and from that point on, I was hooked on knives. Um, this
So,
was
what
back.
I was going to say,
Okay.
do you primarily make knives, or are you still across the board just based on what your customers' needs are?
For the most part, I'm still across the board. I'm trying to slowly work my way into just doing knives. It's kind of a retirement plan because a knife is easier to carry than 300-pound railing.
I can imagine. I can imagine. So so
Yeah,
when you
man.
say railing, you're doing like decorative stair
Yeah,
railing and things like
I've
that?
done. I was very fortunate back around 2000, 2001. I was living in Florida at the time, and I worked for Clawman Sons, which is a hugely internationally famous blacksmithing shop in Florida.
Yeah.
First project that I did, we won silver medal at the NOMA competition.
Wow.
Um,
What was
so
that project?
it was just a very fancy railing, all aluminum, forged.
Oh, wow.
First
Yeah, man.
first forged aluminum I ever did. So
So when you're forging aluminum, I assume you're working with a lot cooler temperatures. But is
hmm
everything else very similar to, forging other metals that are much harder and heavier?
yeah, it's almost identical.
Yeah, that's
It
pretty
just
cool.
moves a lot easier.
Yeah. So, and it's probably pretty easy to come up with your supplies because if you want to do some Damascus aluminum, you can just find cans everywhere and just beat it all
Yeah,
together.
I haven't tried that one. Okay, something new to try. I mean, why
Now
not?
you ended up in Montana, and how did you end up there?
Um, I was working as a full-time goldsmith at the time
Uh huh.
down in Florida, and there was a blacksmith shop looking for a foreman, and I was running my own business as well as working as a goldsmith.
Yeah.
And they moved me out here to run the shop.
Now, are you near a larger city, or are you kind of like
I'm
mountain man?
yeah, I'm right by Glacier Park,
Okay.
Kalispell, Whitefish area.
Yeah.
So it's a more of a high-end community as far
Gotcha.
as the housing and stuff.
Now, do you have grizzly bears there?
Yes,
Well, we won't be having a hammer in there. Sorry.
I have wolves, grizzly bears, mountain lions,
Yeah.
black bears, turkeys, deer, elk, all within my yard.
What kind of gun do you carry, Scott?
When I go hiking, 357.
I was going to say with a big long barrel.
Nope.
No, no, just something to get the job done. I've been watching this guy on YouTube, and I can't remember his name or his channel, but he uses large handguns, and it's all about bear defense. And his girlfriend draws bears on cardboard boxes for him, and he blows the boxes away. But he is fast, and he is on target. I can tell you that. So I have a niece that lives up in Montana, and she has a new baby, and she likes to go out and do walks through the park with the baby. And I'm like, no, don't do that. But I haven't lived in that environment, so I guess you learn how to live in your environment. If you live in Colorado, not to go pet the elk, right?
You hope so.
Some people don't know that. They figure
No.
it out eventually. So you were on Forged in Fire. How did you go about getting on the show?
They contacted me. They were kind of looking for smiths that haven't been on there before. and I had a fairly decent internet presence with my ornamental ironwork.
Mm-hmm.
And I applied. They asked me to come on, so.
And so you didn't have to write I know some of the guys have had to write long letters and this, that, and the other. So it certainly speaks to they saw something in you and asked you to come out there. So you were in New York and I guess the surrounding community in Connecticut or something where they did the filming. How did that?
Yeah, I was.
What was that experience like living in the same clothes for a couple weeks?
It wasn't too bad. When you go on the episode, they tell you to bring 2 outfits that match, so that way, you have clean clothes.
Yeah.
The experience. Everyone was really nice on set. I think I met all the judges a total of 10 minutes on the week or whatever I filmed.
Yeah.
I didn't have a bad experience. I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
So a lot of it is that they do this shot for the scene and then that's over. Then they are all at that point, they're filming the contestants doing their work. And then you come back and you see the judges again. And other than that, there's not a lot of interaction.
I think besides the actual filming of the competition, because when it's 3 hours in the clock, it is actually 3 hours ongoing. It doesn't stop and start. All the Smiths are pretty much in a little closet almost.
Right.
It's a small little room because you're not allowed to interact with any of the crew or the judges or anything.
I see. So no slipping anybody 100 or anything like that.
No.
So what was your round one project?
I had to make 100-layer Damascus into a knife that could they'd chop into stone and then cut through a leather bag. So I did a
wow. So I guess
when Bowie type knife.
Yeah, when I'm sitting there thinking about that, I'm like, I guess they really had to chop into that stone because I was just kind of thinking that that wouldn't scare me too bad, but maybe I don't have the right perception. If they're really chopping. Did they wail on the stone?
It really gave it his all.
Oh, so he wailed on the stone. I got you. Okay.
Oh yeah. It wasn't little swings.
Yeah. Well, did you just go slicing right through that leather bag, or did it?
No, I chopped into it pretty good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then what was your next? Round?
For the final weapon, I had to do a broadsword.
Yeah.
Because it was the episode I did was all King Arthur based.
Yeah.
Okay. So I did a 3-bar Damascus broadsword, bronze guard, wire wrap handle. It hangs on the wall behind the judges when they're doing their testing now.
Nice.
Gotcha.
Nice.
Oh man, that's really freaking cool, man. That is cool.
Yeah, if I ever want to see it, I just have to watch an old episode.
Yeah. So King Arthur. So I just think about that scene where King Arthur gets in the fight with the Black Knight and takes off all his arms and legs, and they just call it a truce.
I think that's Monty Python.
Yeah, I was gonna say, come on, guys, Monty Python. Joey's sitting there thinking, Joey, it's just a flesh wound.
It's just a flesh wound.
All right, Joey. Somebody text that poor guy a YouTube episode of that so he can see it. So now do you so you had to make that sword. Was that something new for you, or had you made pieces that big before?
I had made pieces that big before. I worked for a gentleman who used to do Renaissance fairs and stuff back when I was younger. And so I was around quite a few swords. So I learned a lot about making larger weapons.
You hammered that out with a power hammer or a press, or?
Yeah, I mainly press and a little bit of power hammer. I've got a tire hammer and and a hydraulic press that I made.
I got you.
Nice.
I got you. That's cool. Hey, I'm gonna let you guys talk because I'm gonna go online and look at that.
I just got a question for Scott.
Sure.
What did you base your tire hammer design off of? The Clay Spencer?
Roughly, but I decided to go more with the pillow blocks on the top for kind of have a small axle. I just felt I got smoother movements because I kind of rebuilt it twice. Um, and it worked a little better for me than just doing it straight with the tire, no matter how I tried to balance the tire out.
I got you. Okay. Yeah.
Now, what kind of do you heat treat in an oven, or are you heat treating out of a forge?
It depends on the steel.
What kind of
If it's normal Damascus or uh, L6 or regular carbon steel, my forge I built, I have a ribbon burner, and I
right?
have it digitally controlled temperature.
Got you.
So I can get my forge gets to within 5-10 degrees of where I want it.
So you don't
And
do
then,
you have an oven at all?
yeah, I have an oven too because when I burn out for jewelry casting and
Okay.
when I'm doing things like LMAX or right now I'm doing some other stainless steels that the electric oven kiln works a little better for.
What kind of kiln are you using?
It's just an old jewelry kiln.
Oh, okay, cool. I was just wondering if you were going to say that you use even heat, and I was going to tell you very quickly if you are an even heat user, you can go out to maritimeknifesupply.ca, and not only can you find great knife making supplies, he's also a distributor of even heat ovens. So go out to maritimeknifesupply.ca and see what he's got to offer. How was that transition?
Oh, it's smooth.
That's good.
Seamless.
Just want you guys to
Seamless.
know that Maritime has signed on with us, and they're another great vendor that we want to send people to. So I walked you into that, and you're like, you set me up. But tell us a little bit about your shop.
It's a little 1.5 car garage that has more tools than you should be able to stuff in a 1,000 square foot warehouse. Uh,
It's so cool.
it's Go ahead.
It's so cool that you say that, because people are like, God, you need to build you a pole barn in the backyard and get it equipped. And I'm like, a lot of these guys that are working for themselves are working out of their garages or small buildings, and why do I want to sit and pay off $30,000, $40,000? That takes a lot of knives before I can get that paid off. The return on
Well,
investment.
I've had a 9 foot double tier, 9 foot round double tier chandelier come out of that little shop.
Wow.
So I mean, you can produce a lot of work in a small space if you're creative.
Yeah, I saw Kyle Daly, who was on last episode. He shared some pictures with us today, and that may be his old shop, but I think he's using like 1.5 of 2 car garage is what it looked like. And he does beautiful work as well. So it's encouraging to hear that. Don, I believe you were going to say something, and I'd cut you off.
Yeah, I want to know what episode and what season he was on. Yeah, what episode or season was he on?
Season 7, episode 16.
Okay, thank you.
It's Sword in the Stone.
Yeah,
Great.
hey Scott, I'm looking at your webpage here, and I'll tell you, in addition to the amazing knives, everything else on here is incredible. The furniture that you have on here and the everything else is just, I mean, that's it's amazing to see somebody that does one thing really well, but when you see somebody that does every one of these areas as an expert, it's really impressive.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. All I can say is I had some really great teachers. People who love the craft and were at the highest level of their abilities, and I just stumbled into their place, and they taught me all they could.
Now that was pretty cool. So now you've got your family up there. You said you have a son, and you had communicated that he was in the Civil Air Patrol, and you had some meetings with that. So you just have a son, or you got other children?
No, actually, I have my daughter is 30 years old,
Uh-huh.
and she just had my second grandchild.
I saw that picture.
Um,
What's your grandfather name?
right now it says Grandpa. I don't see him enough to have gotten a really cool nickname.
But isn't it cool to be a grandfather, regardless?
Oh, it is.
So,
I was ecstatic that my daughter had a little girl this time. So,
that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah, I like
and
collecting
that,
grandchildren. It's the best thing in the world. The only thing
and I've
better
got
than the second place is collecting knives. Number 2 is collecting grandchildren. I love it. So,
and I've got 2 sons too.
Okay. And how old are they?
One's 19 and the other's 14.
Gotcha. And the 14-year-old's in the Civil Air Patrol.
Yes.
And that's what I was telling. I used to love to go to those meetings with my cousin in North Carolina when I was growing up. They always did cool things that the Cub Scouts didn't do or the Boy Scouts didn't do. So it was more up my line. We came from a family of Air Force veterans, so it even made it cooler. I had an uncle that was a pilot, and so on. Mark, were you in the Civil Air Patrol?
I flew with them a couple times
Did you?
up at when I got my private pilot's license. We went up to Alaska, and I got the chance to fly with the a CAP unit up there.
I got you. You were remind me. You were on helicopters, right?
No, I was on heavy bombers.
Heavy bombers. I'm sorry. I said the picture I've seen of you. You're standing in front of a helicopter.
Yeah, that was in Afghanistan. Had the chance to fly with the Romanian crazy helicopter pilot.
Romanian helicopter man. Will be back. And that just meant he's coming back to base with you. Did y'all see the Black Hawk that went down this week?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, there was a Black Hawk that went down about 15 miles north of my house here, and it was out of the National Guard out of Tennessee, and it crashed along the highway here in the Huntsville area, and two servicemen lost their lives, and that was quite unfortunate. Man. So. Anyway, I digress. I didn't mean to. Scott, where can people find you for everything you do other than just going to your website at ironbearknifeandforge.com? Where else can we find you out on the internet?
I'm on Facebook and Instagram, either Scott Jorm Sweeter or Iron Bear Knife and Forge.
Gotcha. And now, do you put up things that are for sale, or you pretty much make things to order?
A little of both. I given the opportunity, my favorite thing to do is multi-bar Damascus and mosaic Damascus stuff. So that's more of what, if I'm making it, that's what it is.
All right. Well, guys, do we have enough information on here to go ahead and take our vote tonight?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Scott, if you are blackballed, we'll have to block you on Facebook and unfriend you and all that. But if you make it in, you are a official honorary Knives Templar with all the rights and privileges. You can come back at any time, be on any show. Just let us know you're coming in. And more importantly, Odysseer is going to send you a signed certificate with the tiger paw print from the Black Panther that he killed out in Brazil. So he stamps that on everyone. So I hope you enjoy that. With all that being said, we will take a vote. Don, you say, I know what you're going to say. Here you go.
Oh yeah,
man. The only person that did and that was just a woo was Ric Flair. I when you do that, I'm like waiting for this, like, oh yeah, my ears are anticipating it like a gunshot. and there it comes. And it's not as bad as what I'm anticipating, but I know it's coming. Joey?
I doubt you are.
What
you don't know Russian?
Oh, it was in Russian. Oh, okay. Yeah. I thought you were speaking Cajun. I thought you were speaking Cajun.
It means, oh yeah, man. Yeah, man. I doubt you are.
I doubt you are to you too. Odysseer? What about you, Odysseer? Scott in? Would you be still with him in the park at midnight? All right.
Yeah, man.
Mark?
Yeah, man.
He had me at iron. So
yeah.
All right. And I say yes. And Eric Rivers, you say?
I say yes, for sure.
Eric loves everybody. And Eric is the most loving person I've ever met. And finally, the great Chris Jones is with us. Chris Jones, what do you say?
Well, I came in halfway through, but yes.
Scott, we have enjoyed having you on the show tonight, and please do come back again. The good thing is that people that are on the Knives Templars get to participate in our chat group that we have. It's a little private chat group we have out there, and we talk to each other day in and day out about stupid stuff, funny stuff, learning stuff, showing off our stuff. It's just a great little community where we continue to communicate with people throughout our journeys in knife making. So, Scott, we're going to see you out there. And if you ever want to come back on the show, man, you just come on right back in, just like Chris did. We're so excited to have him back. So, Scott, we will see you later. We're going to go out and visit your sites, and we'll plug you in the show notes. And welcome to the Knives Templars. Glad to have you.
Thank you very much. I was happy to be on.
All right. Well, guys, let's take a little breather. We all need to refreshen our glasses and whatever else needs to be done. So we'll be right back.
Pop's Knife Supply was started 40 years ago and is owned by 4 professional knife makers. Andy Roy of Fiddleback Forge, Alan Searles of W.A. Searles Knives, Joey Berry of J.B. Knife Works, and Dirk Lutz of Dirk Lutz Knives make a great team of owners carrying on the traditions and business started by James Poplin. Over 4 decades in business is a testament to the best customer service with same-day shipping on weekdays. Pops only charges actual shipping, and any shipping differences are refunded on your orders. Everything you need to make knives, from grinding, steel, pin stock, heat treating, and more, can be found at Pops. Visit them at popsknife.supplies. And now, back to the show.
All right. Well, welcome back. And you heard me allude to something that just got me all giggly and excited. It's got somebody's kids in the background all giggly and excited too. Whose kids are all excited?
Not mine.
I thought that was coming from you for some weird reason.
I don't know. Otis here must have the grandkids over tonight because he went silent and it got quiet. Chris Jones, welcome back to the Templars, man. We are so tickled to see you. It's a handsome face you got there.
Well, thanks. Hey, Chip. How's it going?
It's going wonderful. You see, we've added a couple people since you were back, but man, since you were last with us, but they are all reminded constantly that they have a lot to live up to, and you certainly set the bar right there. So yeah, we were talking tonight. We mentioned you, and I said, "Hey, Joey, grab Chris, see if you can't get him in." So what you been up to, brother? It's good to see
you. I'm doing pretty good. Had a good show back in November. That Texas Custom Knife Show there in Conroe. Right. Joey was there and took home best cutlery knife. Got to meet Jay Nielsen and Doug Markita. Doug actually told me he voted for my knife, so that was kind of cool.
Oh,
wow. And then got sick pretty bad, was pretty much out of commission for the month of January, so didn't really get to do much, but working on some stuff now and got a few knives in the works and some custom orders, getting ready for, I've got a show this weekend. It's not an actual knife show. You'd like this one, Chip. Well, you wouldn't now. You would in your old days. It's called Beards for Big Love, and it's a beard festival.
Yeah.
And they approached me while we were at Conroe, and they said, "Hey, we're doing an event here in February. You've got a nice beard. You sell things that guys like. Why don't you come on out?" Yeah. So I'm going out this next weekend. And I got a free entry into the beard competition, but I'm kind of bummed in that the categories were 0 to 6 inches, 6 to 12, and 12 and up.
Yeah.
And I'm at like 5. So I'm like, I'm competing with guys that have short beards like Joey over there.
Joey's little beard's looking pretty cool though. He's manned up on us. That looks really good, Joey. I like it.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm gonna let it grow out. But Chris got me beat right now.
Yeah. Well, just so you know, My beard is still there. It just it is. It's the
It's so
0 to
white. It's like the
It's
color of your
clear.
skin.
no. It's a 0 to 6 inch category.
Your
But
beard's there like Otis Sears' hair, you know.
Yeah,
but at some point in time, in the future, I will be able to compete in the 12-inch plus again because I just had to make a decision in my life that I was going to take it.
How long would it take for you to get to the
Beards grow
12-inch?
6 inches a year.
Yep.
That's science, right there, buddy. So they grow slower than toenails. The older I get, toenails have outpaced my beard. So,
So now then we've got the Texas Select event coming up in April. I think Joey's coming over for that one. Sarah's going to be there.
That's cool.
That'll be a fun one. Jay Nielsen will be there as well. Jay's moving to Texas part time, so he's coming to more and more of these events.
So I've really recognized all of these scales that y'all are putting out that Sarah, I assume, is making for you, and it's really setting your knives apart. You already make beautiful steel, but I remember back early when we had got started, I was like, I want to make some of my own like this, but I tell you, it's hard to compete with some of the what do you call it when she puts the different combinations together? It's just gorgeous. It's just gorgeous.
You should see these 2 sets she's making me right now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
She made me. I just got a box. It's the largest flat rate box that they make, and it was full.
Nice.
I want to say it was 20 some odd sets because I'm going to start doing some culinary sets, some 3-piece and 5-piece sets.
Oh, that's cool.
So I had her make up. I basically bought Terry Dunn out of all the golden ambonia that he had at the last couple of shows. I gave Joey a piece because I felt bad because I was stealing all of it. But she made me up all of these different sets with that. And I had some spalted spaghetti yolk, which if you've never seen that, oh boy.
Yeah, it looks cool.
That's some cool stuff. But yeah, I'm going to start making some of those. I may get one set done before April's show. And then
have you thought about making a fork with your sets?
I've thought about it. I know Jeff Fader does like a plating fork. You know, a lot of people think it's a fork for like, oh, let me stab this piece of meat, but it's actually for plating pasta. But I've added.
I didn't realize that's what it was for. But
yeah, I've tweaked my chef knife a little bit. I've got a new petty knife that's super popular so far. I've got a paring knife now. I've always had my barbecue slicer, and I've added a fillet. And then I'm looking at adding. I've got a Nikiri, a Santoku, and I'm looking at adding a bread knife, like a sandwich knife.
Yeah. So you're really hitting the shows a lot more, and your business is growing from that. From the other perspective, just your name's getting out, but shows are becoming a big part of what you do.
Yeah, and actually, I started something this week that I'm really excited about. I took one of my demo knives, or I took a knife and one of my chef knives, and I made a demo knife, and that means demonstration, not demolition. I had somebody ask me that, and I'm like, don't demolish a chef knife, please. But I've got some things in there that I'd gotten some feedback from a couple of chefs that they wanted to see me do and add things that they don't see typically in chef knives. And so I made a knife that I can take, and I just dropped it off this week at a local brew pub with the head chef, and I'm going to let him use it through the weekend. I'm going to go pick it up on Sunday, Monday. Told him, have your sous chefs, have your other chefs try it out. Let me get some feedback from you. Love it if you then promote me through your social media. And then, I'll offer them a discount for the time that they spent using it and the feedback that they gave me if they want to buy one. Then I'll take it, probably keep it through the weekend through the beard show. And then after that, I'm going to start once a week. I'll just take it, go have lunch somewhere, some local place. A lot of the brew pubs, are kind of where I'll start, barbecue places, and just see if they want to try it and give me feedback. So,
yeah. Well, I hope that you do well in this beard competition. That sounds
We'll see.
Quite exciting. You can you might be able to give some guys some little trims too, little loose hairs. You can show them just how sharp your knife is to take a couple loose hairs off here and there,
That's
split some
right.
hairs with them. So, well, cool. Well, stick with us, or we would love for you to stick with us. But man, we are so excited you're back.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this real quick, because we're going to take another quick break. If you were going to go out and buy some sanding or grinding belts and use a code of Templars 10 for 10% off, who would you use, Chris?
Oh, I'd probably use Phoenix Abrasives.
We'll be right back.
All knife makers need abrasives, plain and simple. Here at Knives Templars, we're proud to partner with Phoenix Abrasives. I used to get my belts from another company, but they spent more time on marketing than they did customer service, sometimes taking 2+ weeks to ship my order. That's not the case with Phoenix Abrasives. They're obsessed with committing all of their resources to customer satisfaction. Whether you're using a 2x72, 2x42, 1x30, or something else, they've got you covered. They even carry Rhino Wet sandpaper. So go to phoenixabrasives.com/shop and enter promo code Templars10 for 10% off your next order.
All right, welcome back, guys. Are you ready for some topics tonight? I've got some questions.
Let's hear it.
Let's do
Questions and topics.
Ready.
All right.
Ready.
Well, the first question comes in from, and I don't know where these people get these names. His name is Lester. Maybe that's a name. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to make fun, but Lester, he says, recently the biggest thing bothering me on my last knives is the primary bevel. I saw a lot of people grinding the two bevels, so I wanted to try it myself. I got a 2x72 grinder, but no adjustable table to help me grind bevels. So my goal was learning to grind them freehanded. After watching a few videos on YouTube, it seemed like not that hard of a thing to do. So after grinding the blade flat, I ground slowly those bevels and, as suggested on some videos, rotating my body rather than moving my hands. So attempt after attempt, and I just kept getting the same result. In the front, close to the tip, the bevel seemed decent, but where it would be straight and parallel to the edge going towards the hill, I just kept messing up. Always where I stop, I make the bevel go up way higher and a few inches before as well. Every time it feels impossible to get perfectly straight lines, freehanded. Can you help me?
Mm-hmm.
Go for it, Eric.
So, one of the things to think about is using the work rest method. If you're ever worried about trying to get a parallel line on when you're grinding, just do what a lot of knife makers do. You see it on YouTube all the time. Rest the spine of the knife on your work rest and then pull it across the belt. And it'll keep you from dropping one end or the other or really worrying about what you're doing with your hands. It's still considered freehand grinding. You're not using a jig or anything like that. You're just taking it, setting the spine on the work rest, moving it up to the belt at the whatever angle you want, and then pull it across and pull it across. And if you do what I do, I don't do that method. I use my plunge line jig and I hold that the whole entire time. And you can kind of, what I see a lot of people do where they have issues with this is, for one, they put too much pressure on the blade. They don't let the belt do its job. If you're coming in at the belt, and of course you can't see what I'm doing with my hands or my body. These guys can. But if you come at the belt and you put a lot of pressure into it right off the bat, you're not really controlling what's going on with the grinding. You want to go up to the belt, basically rest your blade on the belt and let the belt do its job. Use fresh belts, use good belts, and you can just sit there and you can feather everything together. Let's say you got a little wave in it or something like that. Okay, well, go gently at the belt and start cleaning that up. cleaning that up.
Are you talking about when the crisp line is no longer crisp?
Yes. So if you got a wave in it or something like that, or like what it sounds like happening to him, you'll have a lot of times whenever you go up to the belt, you grind it, and where your plunge line is, your bevel comes up higher, and then it dips down as you're coming across the center section of the blade, and then it does a different thing towards the tip. And a lot of that is you're coming into it hot right there at that plunge line, and then you're trying to adjust it as you come out. You can actually start going towards the belt more towards the center of the blade and then feather into the plunge and then kind of work your way out. But it's all about putting that light pressure. If you're getting in there and you're trying to hog material off and you're putting a ton of pressure on the belt, it's really hard for you to be able to control your hands and what you're doing with everything, especially when you're trying to freehand grind. It's all about light pressure, let the belt do its job, pull across, pull across, pull across, be consistent, and don't be afraid to feather a line back in. Don't be afraid to come in gentle at the middle and feather back in. So if you're trying to get rid of that swoop that's happening towards the center of the blade, you're coming in and you're focusing more with light pressure towards that center, and then you start feathering it into your plunge. And it's getting used to the movements of that and what happens when you touch a belt. Yeah, that's one of the things. But the easiest way to get rid of stuff like that is just set your blade on the work rest and pull across. Use the little push stick method. They got lots of stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, a lot of people starting off, they try to put pressure with both hands, but whatever your dominant hand is your pressure hand, and all you're doing with this hand is just pulling.
Yep.
You're just pulling the blade.
Do you find that belt progression also is a big thing in that? If you're trying to get a straight line with an 80 grit belt versus a 240 or a 400, trying to finish it off, it'll help get your lines crisper? Or
it's really the technique that Eric was explaining with your feathering and really the pressure that you're applying to the blade.
Yeah, I was going to say I've seen some of the rougher grinds that Eric have done, so I assume they're probably at 36 grit on some of those really rough edges you've done. So I mean, you've gotten straight lines on those as well. So I think I hear you guys say something all the time, and specifically Eric is let the belt do its job, don't do it for it.
Yeah.
Well, one more thing, right? The saying that practice makes it perfect is not accurate, okay? But practice makes it better. So just you screw one up, okay? Grab another one, and another one, and another one, until you start to have a feel for your grinder, and you start to have a feel for that steel. I mean, the last piece I'm working on right now, whoever done it knows how hard it is to grind a dagger and keep that center line, that center ridge.
Yeah, real nice.
Right? And I ground that freehand. Okay. And I would have never done it haven't I ground, I don't know, 100 blades, right?
Yep.
And not only starting with the jig, but then jumping into free-handed and stuff. It's practice. Don't expect for you to jump on a grinder with a piece of steel on your first knife and you expect to have perfect lines.
Would you
It's not gonna
say
happen.
cutting some 8-inch pieces or whatever, kind of cutting them to a blade shape, just roughly on mild steel from your local hardware store, 1/8 inch thick, would be helpful? Or do you think you should be working on high carbon steel?
No, mild steel is going to grind different.
Great. Yeah.
I wouldn't bother with mild steel just because one, like you guys said, it grinds different, right? But once you finish grinding, even though it may not be what you were aiming for, you can still harden. You can still go through the process of finishing that piece,
Right.
and you're still learning from it, regardless of okay, so it is not what I was expecting, but it is something that I have to show for all this work that I put on it. And every blade, you're gonna get better and better and
So
better. I
there's also
mean,
another layer that you got to think about. You know, uh, you can perfect like there's a lot that goes into freehand grinding. For one, everybody's either right hand or left hand dominant, so you're always going to be slightly better at one side than the other. So it's like you still
oh yeah,
gotta, once you get one side down, then you got to get used to doing it with your non-dominant hand and getting that down really good with what you're doing with your body. What I'd say, whenever I first started making knives, I had old dull files that I couldn't use anymore. They weren't cutting steel hardly at all. I just used those because they were already hardened steel. And I was able to figure out what belts would do with something that was 60, 60 to 65 hardness already. And it made me realize what's going to happen. And you'll see what happens with a 36 grit belt, how much it's going to grab steel that's soft and how much it's going to grab steel that's hard, uh, and what you're going to do with it. You have some people that say, well, practice on shaping wood or doing something like that. Again, you don't know what's going to happen with that steel until you get used to using it. I always tell people, pick a steel, stick with it. If you're going to start making knives, just pick 1084 and make your first 10 knives out of 1084, your first 40 knives out of 1084. Pick a steel, get really good at that, and then branch off and start making some other things. Because if you take and you
yeah,
pick 6 different steels, well, then you got to learn 6 different heat treats. You got to learn 6 different grinding techniques. You got to so many
Yeah.
different things. Yeah, it's just pick something, stick with it, work with that, get a good steel, make knives.
Hey,
yep,
hey,
I agree,
so just a
100%.
thought from the new guy, right? Is so one of the things that I was doing is that I was so concerned about my plunge lines that I would just focus on trying to get that plunge line right, and then it just kept going. The bevel would go higher and higher on that side of the blade. So that was a big problem. But then to fix that, what I would do is I'd start with my bevels really low, and then so it gave me a lot of opportunities to kind of clean them up and just raise them to the spot where I needed them, and feather them in, where I need them. So it kind of just gave me a lot more leeway when I did it wrong to start. So I would say start low, and then just kind of get lighter and lighter and work your way up, and then you can kind of fix finer and finer. That seems to have worked for me, and so far. And then watch Eric and these guys a lot. That helps.
Yeah. Another thing you can do also, you can color the blade with some layout
Mm-hmm.
dye or something, right? Black Sharpie, and take a mic and scribe the line of the height of the bevel that you want, and then just keep watching. You know, put it in the belt, take it out. Put it in the belt, take it out. Right? 10, 100, whatever many times you need to do it until you keep watching that line, and until you get to that particular height that you're looking for. It helped me a lot. It helped me a lot doing that. Right? So you have a visual uh, guide. You know, and like everything else, keep doing it. Don't stop.
Yeah, I agree with Eric, man. I had a lot of people say, well, go down to Lowe's and get a 1/8 inch piece of steel. Well, the thing is, you can buy Pops 8670 for a few dollars more and build a real knife and really get a chance to know what that steel is going to do, especially after it's hardened. Because every steel is different. 8670, when you grind it after it's hardened, it's different. Um, I know it grinds a lot different than 440C after it's been hardened. I mean, so I would definitely 1084 Pops 8670, get you some steel and go with that until you get it down. So use the steel that you're going to use.
Out of
A,
every
a, 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 a good beginner steel, right? That helped me quite a lot because it's
Mhm.
easy to heat treat. Is the good old faithful
Yep.
5160.
absolutely.
If you put any steel in front of me, okay, I need you to make a knife that cannot be screwed up or anything like this, I will grab a 5160 because I know that it will take a nice heat, and it's hard to screw up a 5160. And it's cheap too. And you can get pretty much everywhere. A leaf spring or something you normally, not always, but usually it's 5160.
Yeah, out of everything that we use, steel is the cheapest part to make a knife. So,
Yep,
it is. Why not?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I see these posts of people that they're like, I got a bunch of these saw blades, and I'm like, just get real steel.
Yeah, just get some good steel. Yeah.
Yep.
And take those knives that you're messing up. If you don't get it right, and like Otis here said, grab another one. Take the ones you mess up, set them aside, because as you get better, you're going to learn how to fix them. And then the other thing I would add is he said his technique is good, but I'd say take a video. So I started struggling here recently with I was grinding these chef knives, and they're so thin that I was getting a little bit of warp in them as I'm grinding in the tip. And so I actually took a video of myself, and what I found was what I thought was good technique. My right elbow wasn't tucked into my side, and that's partially because I can't pronate that arm because of an injury that I've had. So that one has to fly out, and so it was actually causing me to over grind the tip on that one side. I figured it out, and I fixed that knife, and that knife now has one of the biggest distal tapers you'll ever see. And it's super flexible chef knife at the tip. Some chefs like that.
An opportunity.
And so I'm like, hey, I'll try something different. But I thought I was doing well, but I couldn't figure it out. And so, I took a video, and from the back, I could see when I would do the left side, which is my non-dominant side, everything was working really well. But on my dominant side, everything was messed up because I can't pronate this arm completely when my elbow's bent.
It helps a ton. I seriously, you got to think how much. I'm like a professional football player with how much.
Yeah, you watch tons of game
video
film.
I watch. I mean,
you watch more game film than Peyton Manning.
Yeah,
that's actually a really good tip, though, Chris.
Yeah,
very good tip.
Real good tip.
Yeah, you're struggling with something, videotape yourself. That's a good.
Goes back to my days when I used to play a lot of golf. You tape your swing and you see what's going on.
The same thing,
right? Yeah. So I thought, why can't I do this when I'm grinding?
Hey, folks, let's take a little break. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. And when you return, we are going to have a question from our buddy Stingray on the blisters he's getting on his knives. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Jason Fry. Just want to talk a little bit about belts. Everybody says use belts like they're free, and that always gets on my nerves because they're not free. Dang it, I have to buy them every time. So if I'm going to have to buy them and I'm going to have to use them like they're free, seems like it makes good sense to figure out which ones I like and try to balance value with performance. So first, I think I want to talk about cheap belts. Cheap belts are cheap for a reason, but that doesn't mean they're not good for anything. Your basic cheap belt is going to be aluminum oxide, and they run anywhere from $250 to $350 a piece, and they come in grits from like about 60 all the way to 600 or 800. These belts are not good for metal very often at all, but what they are good for is handle material. If you're going to use a belt that's going to clog up and get funky on your handle material, then you might as well use a cheap one. I go through either 80 grit or 120 grit AO belts, the cheapest ones I can find, literally by the dozens for handle shaping. I think that's the best use for those cheap AO belts. Another time I'll come on and talk about why I like expensive belts and what good belts I like. But today's tip is simply use the cheap belts for what they're good for. Use them for handle material, use them for things where the belt's not going to cut very long, use them for things where it just doesn't matter if they wear out because they're cheap, right? That is the tip for today. Follow me on Instagram at Fry Custom Knives for more tips and tricks, or check out my book, Knife Making Hacks, available wherever books are sold.
Hey, this is Jason Fry. Did you ever think knife making would be easier if you just knew all the tricks? Well, good thing for you, I wrote a book on the subject, Knife Making Hacks, 384 Tips to Make Knives Like the Pros. It combines my years of experience with the research I've done on other writing projects with pretty pictures of some of the world's best knives. There's some humor in there as well as some good knife making wisdom and knowledge. It's available wherever books are sold, gundigest.com and my website, frycustomknives.com/books. Pick up a copy today and learn to make a knife like the pros.
All right, guys. So I encourage you to go out and get a copy of Jason's book. He's got great tips out there for us, and he's bound them all in a nice publication that you can purchase. And you should take advantage of that because it'll save you a lot of time on little hassles in the shop. So, hey guys, we gotta jump into a couple more questions. We were talking about Stingray, and we've heard this before. And he says he's trying to figure out why I have blisters on my steel. It is leaf spring steel, and I didn't develop marks until the quench. I used clean motor oil and preheated it beforehand.
Look, so couple of things that could be happening, right? One, he is overheating his steel, just overcooking it. My teacher calls it the frog skin effect, right?
Yep.
Because if you look at a frog and you look at that steel bubbling up, that's looks just like it. Okay, frog skin effect. In that case, I guess you burnt the steel. Just toss it, grab another piece, start over, because it's not going to be good. Or because it's using used motor oil, sometimes when you quench it, that motor oil will bubble up on the side and it will not harden properly because it has an air bubble right next to the steel preventing it. So I had it happen to me before when I use motor oil, and it's a pain to get out, right? And you have some uneven heating spots in there. So if you guys have something else to add, those are my two takes. Overheating the steel, and don't use motor oil.
I would
Use
say
grease.
if you don't want to spend a lot on a quench oil, at least go out and get some canola oil or peanut oil. Use the
Peanuts
peanut
better.
or canola, and use those. And if you
I use
Yes, you
peanuts
Yep,
do,
also.
that's
baby.
right.
But if you can't afford it, look into one of the quench oils, and our buddies over at Pops or Maritime can advise you on that, or any of
So
the suppliers out there can help you to determine what's the best oil for your steel, whether it be AAA or Parks or something else. Fifty
all you
Parks
got to
50.
do most of the time is just Google the heat treat process for 1084, heat treat process for this. There's knife steel nerds and all these different places.
If
What you got, Joey?
if you buy your steel from Pops, Pops has heat treating info on their website, and so does
Yes,
New
they do.
Jersey. And so does New Jersey bearing steel.
Yeah, still bearing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep, steel bearing. Yep.
And if so, anytime you're going to get blistering on it, of course it is because you overheated it. You went in at like you were expecting to go in at like 1525 and you went in at 1650. The hard part is people who uh, heat treat their knives in a forge. I heat treat my knives in a forge. I use it. Um, the difference if you're trying to sit there and pay attention to the color of it because you saw a color on Forged in Fire or something like that, and you're like, I think it's supposed to be this thing. The difference in color between 1500 and almost 1700 degrees is almost unnoticeable to the eye. So you can't just go, I did a magnet on it, and then I went the quote unquote 1 minute past that or whatever, and then I quenched it in especially something like motor oil, which is not built for quenching. Um, Whenever you do that, you're going to have issues, and that bubbling effect, that blistering effect, is a telltale sign that you got it too hot and you quenched it too hot. Um, it happens. A lot of people do that. So I'm just going to suggest if you're going to use a forge to heat treat, that you just get a laser thermometer off of Amazon that goes up to like 2200 degrees or 2400 degrees, and that way you can at least kind of sort of make sure you don't go too hot. um,
What do
the
you hit?
hard part.
What do you hit with
Go
that
ahead.
thermometer? Do you hit the steel, or do you hit the flame, or the
No, you're gonna hit.
sidewalls?
You're gonna pull the blade out of the forge, and
Gotcha.
then maybe to the side or over to the side because your forge can heat the tip of your thermometer and throw the temperature off 200 degrees. If the tip of your thermometer gets hot, so
Gotcha.
whenever you go and you test it, it'll give you a completely different temp. So you need to pull it away. But the downside to that, every second you have it outside of the forge, you're dropping
It's losing
tons
heat.
of heat. And so it's trying to
Yeah.
figure out the fine tune with that. The best thing that you can do is,
Or you can use a magnet
well,
too.
see, the downside to the magnet is if you're not able to control the flame or the temperature of your forge, whenever you test it with that magnet and then you put it back in there, you're still looking for a color change, or you're looking for it to be a solid color with no hazes in it, no dark
Yep.
sections. And in that
Mm-hmm.
time, it can go up 100 degrees or 200 degrees warmer than what you're trying to actually quench it at. So
Yep. No, I agree,
it's
but
it's hard, you
when you
know.
Yep.
yeah, yes, I agree what you said there, but uh, when you start messing with the steel into the forge, just don't leave it in there. First of all, right? Put it in, take it out, check the color. Put it in, take it out, check the color. I would take about 10 minutes sometimes messing with the steel before I decide to quench, because one, I don't want to be under the temperature. Second, I don't want to be over the
Yeah.
temperature, right? So
Yeah,
I'm
you have
always
some
doing a
coarse
little
grain.
stabbing motion with my steel, right? Take it out, check with the magnet still sticking, go back in there, 1, 2, 3, take it out,
Yeah.
check it.
And
Yeah.
As and you repeat it until the magnet is barely catching. Once you reach that point, all you need to do basically is even out the color of the steel from tip to tang, right? Just make sure that the color never changes, and keep checking, right? I don't know, man.
what you got, Chris?
Well,
Yeah.
There's so
So
much, so
I
many
don't
things,
do
man.
any heat treat out of my forge anymore now that I've got my oven. But when I did, I would put a big piece of angle iron or a steel tube in the forge.
Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah,
the
that's what
knife
I
would
have.
go under or in, so that,
Yep.
because I would get blistering in certain spots, right? Like you said, you're overheating the tip or you're overheating a certain part of the blade where I only had one burner, where that one burner was hitting the knife. So if you can put it in there, it kind of gives it a little bit more control, and it's not going to overheat as quick. Like you said, when you
Yep.
put it back in and it can go up, 100, 200 degrees, it doesn't seem to happen as much. But yeah, I actually had one of those in there for so long, I burned a hole right through one spot in that pipe. So rotate the pipe periodically, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've thought
Yeah, I learned that
about
from
getting a
Eric.
pipe. Yeah, I've thought about getting a pipe. That's a great idea. One thing that I have done in that Majestic is that once I bring my knives up to temperature or up to color is what I'm looking at, and I'll have a darkened area. I've moved my forge inside so I can see color. Um, and then I pull it off to the side wall of the forge and let it sit there, and to a point where it kind of stabilizes in that color and doesn't get any hotter or cooler. I need to get a thermometer. That's a great idea too, Eric. But I take it out of the flame and just let it sit there and bake for that prescribed amount of time, just watching the color it isn't
Hmm.
getting darker or too lighter.
If y'all see my new forge, the way that I have it set up, it's
Love
purely
it.
for this reason, so that I don't have to worry about the baffle, because it creates a vortex in there. There's nowhere in that forge where the flame touches the blade. There's not a single spot. And I had to figure out exactly where to put the burners to create a nice area that's going to be even within it. But I designed that forge purely for that, based on what people were doing with their ribbon burner forges, and how
I
they
was going to
create
say
that
you're kind of a
vortex.
yeah, you're kind of a clone between, or not a clone. You're kind of a between a ribbon burner and a traditional forge. It's really kind of a cool effect. I've watched your videos and seen that fire rolling in there into a circle almost, and
Yeah.
it's pretty cool to see.
And I'll tell you this: the best way to get a consistent type of thing, if you're going to use a forge for one, make sure you're heat treating in the same type of light that you heat treat each time. If you got one time where you got a bunch of bright light and you're looking for the color of it, you got
Yes.
one time where you're really dark and then semi sort of light, all the colors of that still is going to be
Yes.
different.
Yes.
So just try and be
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
consistent and do the same thing.
yeah. I
Um,
put a brick.
Oh yeah.
I put a brick on the
Um,
back of my forge, as you guys likely know, so it blocks that light. But I also have a 30-gallon drum that I turned on its side. I saw Neil over in Hawaii doing that, and so when I pull the knife out, I can put it in that drum, and that drum's always going to have, with the lighting in my shop, it's always going to have that same level of illuminance. So it gives me a better
Yeah.
reference of color.
so, yeah, what I'll do is usually I'll wait until the afternoon and I will close the doors, turn off the lights, block the windows, so I am in as much darkness as possible. Basically, the only light coming through is from the forge.
Sounds
I
like a
And
thought
very
that's when
romantic evening, Otis.
I was going to say it.
Come inside, turn off all the lights, draw a
yeah,
bath,
Uh-huh.
get the heat
yeah,
going.
it's
Little
Got the
Barry
fire
White,
it's
going.
the
little
steel,
Barry
It's
White.
just
the steel, the forge, and I with the big old tub
And
of
next thing you know, he wakes up in the
Oh
park
yeah,
with
just
no
you and me,
clothes on,
baby.
howling at the moon.
oh
Well,
yeah,
because he's got to strip down and get his naked butt towards the moon while he,
yeah.
quenches.
Yeah, yeah.
there you go.
And howl while he quenches.
But yeah, no, I mean keep it on a keep it on a darker setting, and you're gonna be able to
Yeah.
see any
Yeah.
discrepancies in the color.
So
Yeah.
you didn't shave your
Uh-huh.
head. You just burned all the fuzz off.
That's what you gotta do.
Yes.
Just don't run your
Well,
forge in an enclosed space for a long period of time. Okay, safety
exactly.
Yeah.
recommendation there without proper ventilation. We don't want to be
Right.
responsible.
Yep.
Yeah, I actually keep a monoxide detector. Being a safety engineer, I've got one in my shop just because I also run propane heaters out there just for warmth in the winter. So yeah, don't anybody make that mistake.
Yeah, if you start getting some chest pain, just open a window and a
You've
door
gone too
and
far at
walk
that point,
outside for a
Otis.
bit.
Yeah.
What's
You
up,
don't
Don?
want to
I
get
got.
to that point.
I was going
You
to
have
ask.
something
I
to
was going
say?
to say.
Yeah.
I learned this from Eric when I had my forge. I have a 2 burner forge now, but I learned this from Eric. If you take a square tubing and put your knife in that or your blade in that square tubing, it will also help it get even heat.
Yep.
I mean, I started doing that, and I think the best day of my knife making life is when R&L Gator brought my even heat oven to the house. That was the
Yeah.
best day, man.
I bet.
But I'm not. I mean, you don't need it. You don't need an even heat oven. I ain't saying that, but I know there's a lot of guesswork in that for me. I think me and Joey talked about that when you're selling a knife or giving a knife away. I wanted to make it the best heat treated I could, and I feel more
Yeah.
confident in the oven. I know Eric and a lot of guys do. Pinto do a great job on their knives with a forge, but as a new knife maker, man, I said I got to drop it and get a even heat oven. So that's the reason why I went that
I'll,
route. So
I'll be getting one soon. So that's one of my next big things is getting an oven, man. I'm so excited. And I'm gonna get a deep one so that I can
yep,
put
get
bigger
the big
pieces
one.
in it. I'm just gonna, buy once, cry once, top deal on it,
Yep,
get a nice good size one and call it done.
240 volt. If you got it.
Yep.
Yes. Absolutely.
Go ahead, Chip.
So, hey guys, let's go into another section right now, and that is learning to forge. It's something that I've jumped into here. Matter of fact, I'm chasing automotive shops around town like a crack addict, going, "Hey man, you got some leaf springs?" and and I've been able to score quite a few. So, and actually, I've got one guy. He's my supplier. It's kind of like Otis here. He ends up with leaf springs at his shop, and I come up and quietly load them into the back of my truck, like dead bodies at a graveyard. Anyway, learning to forge. Hey, Eric, why don't you kick us off on that tonight? Because you know what, you've taught a lot of people to forge, including myself. So somebody wants to get in. Somebody wants to get into forging. How are we going to do that?
The biggest thing is, just if you're gonna try and get into forging, start the least expensive way possible. And whenever I first started, I got myself a little cheap, Harbor Freight anvil. I was gonna make one with I've got like a 5 foot piece of railroad track, and I was gonna make a anvil out of that. And then I realized that I could buy a cheap anvil for like $40 at Harbor Freight, and I'd watched a couple reviews on YouTube, and people were doing okay stuff with them. So I thought, I need a flat surface that's square. Even if I dent it a little bit, it'll be fine. And I started forging on that, and I used, I went and got, they have tons of videos on YouTube to show you how to take a Harbor Freight hammer and turn it into a rounding hammer. So that's what I did. I took 2 hammers from Harbor Freight, 2.5 or 2.25 pound one, and like a 3 something pound one, and reprofiled them, the faces of them, did a slight rounding on one, nice square one on the other, uh, and I started forging with those. Harbor Freight on a budget, and then once I decided, okay, I made a couple of ugly pieces of steel, uh, and I'd later my first knife that I ever tried to forge a handle on. Actually turned into a knife on my YouTube channel and made it look good and all that stuff. Did it as a giveaway, but it's all about going in as cheap as possible, because forging is hell on your body. And if you go and you buy a $900 anvil, and you go and you buy, forging hammers, rounding hammers, real ones that are made by a smith, those are a couple $100 per hammer, and it's like you're going to try and invest all this money into it, and then you go and swing a hammer for 6 hours, and your elbow swells up and your muscles tense up, and you're like, how the hell am I supposed to do this for the next 2 years? You
Yeah.
just and once you have that investment into it, you're like, oh, now I'm just, man, I'm screwed. I got, either I've got to sell it, or I'm just going to put it in the corner forever. And forging isn't for everybody. I always tell people, you could forge, you could do stock removal. It doesn't matter. You're making knives. Uh, I like the process of forging. I like turning a piece of steel into a knife, like 90% purely with hammers and anvils. And it took a lot of knives to get to that point. It was uh, on camera forging a knife a week, and off camera forging a couple other knives. So you do that back to back to back to back until you get used to, how a hammer moves steel. That's the biggest thing. What parts of your hammers do what things, how to draw steel out, what your horn on your anvil actually does to steel, what's the benefit of it. Um, there's so many things that you got to figure out in the process. Uh, Learning how to draw out the heel of a knife is a whole entire process in itself. Learning how to, like, for me, one of the things that I'm having fun with is forging in plunge lines.
Yeah.
So going through and doing that process, learning where to put your blade on your anvil so that whenever you forge your bevels in, you have symmetrical plunge lines on both sides, and you don't have to then grind them in later. You have a nice swoop into it. I've got my anvil, the way they're set up, 2 anvils. One has an 1/8 inch round, one has a 1/4 inch round, one has a 3/8 round, and one has a 1/2 inch round on the edge, what's radiused on the edge of the anvil. So I know that I can come in with specific hammers that I have, and I can forge in an even plunge line radiused based on what corner of my anvil that I'm using. All that stuff just takes time. It's
Yeah.
like you have to swing a hammer and you have to try it out, but don't invest a bunch of money, because maybe your body's not built for forging.
Okay. One thing that I had to refresh, and I'm back. One thing that I noticed was that and I had to come to terms with that. Sometimes you'll beat a piece of steel for it to bend one way and to a banana in one direction, because you're going in and start forging in the bevels, and then it straightens itself back out, and it's like, whoa, that's witchcraft right there. So you
Yep.
kind of have to. It's kind of like when pilots have to trust their instruments flying in the clouds that they're going to end up where they're supposed to be. It kind of is that aspect that I'm going to bend this in this direction because I know when I go back and hit it here, it's going to line back up like it should. And I've still fathoming that.
Yeah. So one of the videos that I watched, this was probably one of my favorite people to watch forge knives is Neil Kamamura. I talk about him all the time. And one of the things that he said in one of his videos, and I was like, "You're talking to me," because this was a thing I was worried about. So whenever you're forging a knife, the thing that he'll tell you is don't try and smooth everything while you're forging. Get the profile to where the profile is going to be, smooth it later. So if you're drawing out a knife and you're trying to pull things down into certain areas, just get the steel to those areas and then smooth it later. Don't try and take out hammer strikes while you're forging. Do the forging process, get the steel to go for the most part where you want it to do, and then finish it all by planishing. I use my little auto body hammer for my planishing, but do that stuff later. Get the steel to where you're going to go, turn it into a banana, unbanana your banana, and then, kind of take it to where you're going to be and then finish it out afterwards. So you'll see me whenever I'm drawing out like a distal taper, or if I'm drawing out a piece of steel that is only 3 inches long and I got to make a 7-inch long knife, I'll take it and I'll put it on my anvil on the horn, and I'll take my rounding hammer and I'll beat the heck out of it. And I'm just drawing it out, drawing it out, drawing it out, drawing out, putting horrible hammer marks in this thing. And all with the intent that you're going to go back onto your anvil and you're going to smooth it out later. But if you focus on trying to make everything look pretty while you're trying to move a bunch of steel, you're just going to spend time making a thing smooth and then deleting the smoothness by drawing it out again, then making it smooth and then deleting the smoothness. So it's just biggest thing I can tell you is learn what your hammers do and then learn what your body can do.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna show y'all something. So I'm making my chopper thing, and this is what I'm forging into my chopper.
Shoot.
This is a 1/4 inch thick by 3 inch by 24 inch 5160 virgin steel.
Ooh.
And that is what I'm gonna hand forge into a crazy, crazy, crazy chopper. It's probably gonna take me I'm probably gonna have maybe 20 hours worth of forging in that. It's gonna be crazy.
Otis, are you still beating steel?
Every now and then, just a little bit. Yes. I need more space. I don't feel safe doing it indoors.
I will tell you, I've developed that mindset, and I'm joking here, Eric. If you're not forging out the steel, you're not a knife maker. And I say that totally tongue in cheek because I can understand how people get that, because getting that piece of steel, and starting to turn it into something that turns into a knife is totally addicting. That it's like, if I want to go to a piece of bar stock, it almost seems like I'm skipping a step, even though I've only made 3 knives now. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I'm going to fire things up and start beating out my next knife. And I can see how you can develop that mindset that you got to be beating steel to make a knife. And we know that's not true, but it's a neat additional step. And I've got to beat probably 50 more before I feel like I can even talk about it from an educational standpoint. But I can tell you from a new maker standpoint, you said something very important. I think you mentioned Kamamura as well, is that go out and beat the steel, see what it'll do, see where it takes you, learn how to use your hammers, learn how to use your equipment, and don't worry about making it look exactly like a knife. Get your steel the way you need to be to finish it with your pattern, and then go cut everything away that doesn't look like a knife with your saw. So my knives have been the first one, a little less and less, even with just 3 knives, but I still do a lot of cutting away, to get my pattern before I grind it. But I'm learning. You gave me this great tip: go to your horn to start pulling that steel out. And I did that, and I was like, well, look at that. So you
Yeah.
learn something as you move along. So I'm hoping that 10 or 15 knives from now, I'm really feeling really cocky about, my ability. I'm personally cocky about my ability to kind of start doing this. And I've kind of limited myself. I don't want to cut any stock steel. I want to keep doing this and just keep growing it until we go and
Yeah.
grow from
And
there.
see, but you did it the right way. You did it the right way of knife making. I would always suggest people to learn stock removal before they learn how to forge anything.
Yeah.
The time you spend at a belt grinder doing your stock removal, that's a skill set that is invaluable. Like it is the biggest thing in knife making, uh, next to like the heat treat process. When it comes down to being able to grind clean bevels and make a nice, beautiful knife, that happens most of the time at a grinder. That's when you're taking your time and you're really getting everything super clean and all that stuff, especially for like a chef's knife or something like that.
Right.
It's like being able to learn how to do stock removal first so that when you get done forging the knife, you can go and do the rest of the knife making is absolutely huge. And I'll tell you this, if you haven't done stock removal, you don't know where the steel's supposed to go in the forging process because you don't
True.
know what the finished knife looks like and how you got to there, where I needed to, how thin I needed to make the knife, what I'm going to do with the forging process because I know I'm going to grind it later. So I need to make it X amount of thick at the spine. I need to do this distal taper. I need to pull my heel down to here because of the way that when you start making knives, you know when you're cutting them out, you're grinding them, where the things are supposed to go, like where your handle's supposed to be, so your knuckles don't hit the board whenever you're cutting on a cutting board. So where you need to put the handle when you're forging it, all that stuff happens whenever you just learn how to make knives from the beginning. Stock removal, it's it's a skill that you have to have in knife making.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
just have to have it.
I'm still working on where my knuckles need to be when I'm using a shredder belt, so I don't lose them.
Knife,
You and me both.
knife maker's manicure right there.
Yeah, no doubt.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Let me tell you something that Doug Marquita told me when we were at that show. He was asking me, he's like, when are we going to see you on Forge and Fire? And I told him, I said, Doug, I don't really forge a whole lot, right? I don't do a lot of my, I don't do Damascus. I don't have a power hammer. I don't have a press, and I've got a bad right elbow, so I don't swing a hammer a lot. And he goes, oh, that's the easy part. He goes, look at your grinds. He goes, look at your handle shaping. He goes, you've learned how to do that. He goes, we send so many makers home, knife makers
Yep.
home on the show because they can't grind bevels. They can't make a comfortable
Correct.
handle.
Wow.
He's like, you've done
Right.
that piece. He goes, you can learn. He goes, you could spend 6 months learning how to, shape a knife and do some basic Damascus well enough to come on the show. Right.
Yep.
That's cool.
So
I
you
agree.
just didn't got to make it past that first round. Because once you make it past that first round, then everything, now you're talking about the fit and the finish and getting something that'll perform. You've got to know edge geometry. You've got to know,
Yep.
how do you grind out a warp? How do you make a handle that's going to be comfortable for Jay Nielsen when he's going hog wild on a skull or a giant block of
Yeah.
ice, right? And not hurt his
Always.
hand. So
How you balance a sword when Doug's swinging it against a pig.
yeah. So I agree with Eric. Like, I think it's the right progression
Oh,
for
man.
folks to do that and get some of that down. And then if they want to go into the forging piece, they can. I went a different
Yep.
route. I went into doing a lot of culinary stuff and doing a lot of stainless. And so for me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I tell new people that reach out to me and say, hey, I want to come learn how to forge in your shop. And I said, well, I don't really do a lot of forging because I see, only 3 or 4 reasons why you should actually forge, right? One is I want a brute to forge look.
Yep.
2 is, I need to make a shape like a kukri that if I did stock removal, or I want to do an integral bolster, which if I did stock removal would take a gigantic piece of stock and take way too long and waste too much.
Mhm.
Making Damascus, right? Or you just really enjoy that portion of knife making.
Yeah.
But if you're not
Right.
checking
Yeah,
any of
for
those
sure.
boxes, just do stock removal, right? Or, really get under Otisier's skin and go buy some brand new bar stock and then start beating that.
There you go. Exactly. Turn that rectangle that you could have cut into a knife, turn that rectangle into a mangled up piece of steel, then flatten it back down into a rectangle.
That's right. That's right. Instead of buying 1/8 inch stock from 8670, buy, quarter inch, beat it to heck, grind it all down, and get an 1/8 inch billet that's shaped like a knife.
Now, I will tell you this. I
Hey
will
man,
tell you this.
if that's gonna make you feel good,
The that frame handle knife that I did, that was just in the forging process is what brought it to the thickness that I was able to make it right there at the ricasso area, so that when I profiled my handle into it, uh, it was the right thickness. So I was able to forge it fatter so that I had almost an integral bolster area by squishing it down and then flattening it and making it broader right there. So you can do that, but again,
Oh yeah, you
but
can
make sure,
upset. Yeah,
yeah,
you can upset the steel where you can, push it down on it in on itself. Where even with flat stock, I mean, I've seen
So
guys do that before.
Otisir says he's got a "This is Sparta" moment for anybody that stands before him that says, "I beat that rectangular piece of steel into a mangled mess." Just kicks them into the pit. So, hey guys, we are approaching 2 hours, so we're going to wind it down here real quick. What we got going on the next week or so, Mark? What you got going on besides Mardi Gras?
Well, I think finally I get back to some knife making. I finished that
Good.
last knife that I posted there, and
Beautiful
then
knife.
I have a couple others in the hopper. I think my problem is I keep drawing new profiles out that I want to try, so I have 15 15 drawings out there, and time to maybe get one more out in the next week. So yeah, I think I can get another one out, and yeah, that's looking good.
It's real nice.
Well, hope you get back into it, because, like I said,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
like you had said, you've been tied up cleaning up after Mardi Gras.
yeah, that's the
17
one
hours
you
a day.
posted on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
From a rasp
It
one.
was. Yeah, this is the last Ferrier's
Oh, it's
rasp one
real
I
nice.
Yeah,
did.
So everybody on the
yeah, that
podcast can
looks real
see
good.
that
I
now.
like that little stippling you made on the face of the guard, man. It looks real cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
and
So, Mark, if the listeners want to be viewers, where can they view this knife you're holding for everybody?
they can look at that at VMAX Custom Works on Instagram is
There
where I'm
you go.
posting right
He's
now.
got a beautiful file knife you finished. Don, what's going on down in Florida the next week or so?
I got a few knives I got to get out the door. I've been working on how to do a taper tang, and
I've
I've
seen
done.
your surface grinder.
Yeah, I did a couple. I had an old couple blades, just like just like Chris said. Don't ever throw the old blades away, baby, because you can always use them for something else, man. So I did a couple taper tangs, but just trying to dial that in. So, but I tell you what,
Yeah.
that mare braid surface grinder, it's spot on, man. Really good. Well
Yeah,
worth the money.
that's good.
Yeah, those
Beautiful
messed
piece of
up knives
equipment.
where you've messed up the bevel, or you've got something off,
Mm-hmm.
you got a perfectly good tang there. That is a great
Yep.
way to learn how to do a tapered tang. If
Yep.
you're gonna throw it away anyway, maybe you
Yep.
overheated, the knife, or maybe the heat treat didn't quite go right, whatever, but you've got a perfectly good tang there. Figure out how to do it and figure out how to drill it.
Yep. That's the key.
Yeah.
Mr. Rivers, are you back to normal? You going to be putting out
Oh yeah,
Knife Talk
except
Tuesdays and everything?
except for this Tuesday, I'm gonna be down in Houston. I leave Sunday morning, so I won't be able to do much this weekend. I typically film on Sunday, Monday, but I'll be down in Houston learning how to pull RVs apart. So I'm just gonna have more of a talking Shop Talk Tuesday this week. But um, the one that I'm working on right now for that Quaken, I'm gonna try and do. I don't know if it's called like an heirloom fit on the scales to where, because I'm doing a tapered tang on it. You can see like Kyle Royer and a few other people, the way they do their scales, to where the scales are a little bit proud of the tang and they're actually beveled down into the tang. to where you get. It's
museum
kind of
fit.
like it's like a museum fit, but not. Everyone know it would be a museum fit. I can't remember whether they call it a museum or an heirloom on this particular style because it is all the way around the scales where they meet the tang, the way that it is, and it's slightly proud of the tang.
Yeah. Oh, what you mean is where the steel is slightly
Yeah,
lower or a smaller diameter
then the scales.
than the height of the
Yeah,
scale.
and
Yeah.
they're like
Yeah.
rounded into the actual tang, and
Yep. That's
yeah, so
nice.
I'm gonna do that because I'm using those stabilized camel bone, and it
Oh.
polishes. You know how that stuff polishes super nice, and it feels real smooth when you sand it down. But in order to do that, you've got to pretty much finish the scales fully before you do your glue up. So I've got to decide,
Yep.
okay, a lot of people who do that, they will peen over their pins. So they'll use like a nickel silver or something like
Mm-hmm.
that pin, and they'll peen the pins on instead of just gluing everything up like normal. So it's a
You,
process. I'm
you,
gonna try and learn how to do it.
you gonna try your
Um.
hand at that?
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
If yeah.
Recommendation.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can do knife talk Tuesday
Those,
over in Tomball, Texas, at somebody's shop, and
Yeah.
just letting you know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do a how to peen pins episode.
Jalapenos,
So
jalapenos, and
I
how to peen.
I've got a friend of mine who just lives like 10 minutes away from me. He's one of the he's a Forged and Fire champion too, and he makes these beautiful knives. He does a ton of Damascus. He's like 4'5". He's a very
Chad,
yeah,
Who is
Chad.
Chad.
it?
Uh, so Chad Jolly, if I'm
Okay.
right.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know Chad.
so he lives like down the street from me, but um his episode on Forged and Fire was actually 2 episodes. So
Yeah.
he had to film 2 separate episodes for that one. It was crazy. But he does all of this like silver inlay scroll work into his handles.
Yeah.
Like it is absolutely
Yeah.
beautiful. But
It's
he does
sick.
his pins. He sits there with a magnifying glass and he pins those pins over, or he'll make his own pins where he'll just take the stock and he's got a little thing that he puts in his vise and he sits there, he makes the nail heads, like the pin heads, and then puts it through and then pins over the other side to where it's like perfectly rounded.
Yeah. I just get you a carpet tack hammer, Eric.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It has a really small face, probably like a half inch by half inch,
Yep.
and kind of reprofile it where it's a little bit more rounded. That's what I've done
I,
to peen like
I'll try that.
So
silver pins and brass pins, even little bronze pins. It helps, and the pair of glasses that Don showed us one day on the group, those magnifying
Oh yeah.
glasses.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can get down there and you can actually see every hit that you're hitting when you're peening.
Yeah.
I usually start around the edge and then work my way to the middle, and you can actually see, you can get you some good light where you can see it real good.
So
And
how proud are you leaving the pin when you start pinning it?
at least a 16th to an eighth of an inch.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not much. You don't have a lot of room, and there's not a lot of room for error either, especially with that camel bone.
That's what I'm worried about. Is cracking it.
Yeah. One wrong swing, and you'll ruin a good set of $80.
Yep.
Well,
So Joey, when we're in Belleville for that Texas Select Show, I'm going to take you over and introduce you to Frank Machado from Two Bastards.
yes.
Two Bastards Smithy. Like he's a hammer maker here in Texas, and I got a dog's head from him back in November, and he's making some hammers for Jay Nielsen, and he had these when I bought the hammer. He's like, pick up one of those. He had these little bitty hammers, and it's just for peening pins, right? I mean, they weigh next to nothing. They're great. I use them. I use a lot of G10 pins, so I use them for help driving pins in, right? When just kind of like, oh, I can't quite get it fit, but it's really tight, and I'll just tap it because there's no weight, right? I'm not going to crack anything. I'm not going to crack kieranite or anything like that. But those are really good. And Otis here, I've talked to him about making a straightening hammer. So he's going to look into it. I sent him some videos, and so he's going to look into it after the show.
Kyle Daly makes
similar to what Kyle's doing or something. But there's a big market of knife makers here in Texas, and if he could take those to a show and then actually show somebody how to use them, and I mean, all you got to do is you could even do a brass hammer and put the carbide inset in there.
Yeah.
So Joey, what do you got going on the next week?
I'm going to finish up these knives, make some sheaths for them, and start on some new knives.
Getting ready for your show.
Yeah. Just getting some stock.
Good deal.
And I got a couple of orders I need to fill and finish. And but other than that, that's about it.
Well, Otis here, this is the first episode you haven't said you've been failing cars. So what are you doing the next week?
Not sure. Right now I'm just swinging in the wind, I guess. I gotta finish that dagger I started. That thing kicked my goony goo.
I love it that's your word now.
Hard.
That's your word now.
It's keeping those lines straight it wasn't that difficult, but it wasn't easy either. And then making an appropriate guard took me a few tries. So I wasted a couple of guards. And then the handle. Talk about a nightmare on that handle. Still not finished. So I gotta get me some gun blue.
Yeah.
I will blacken the steel, and then I will burn the handle with a matte torch and oil it for a complete black blade. So that's what I got to look forward here for the next few days. Probably gonna be finished this Sunday, hopefully, if everything goes right. But yeah, it was a fun thing. Only my second one, so
it's a good looking knife. Well, with all that being said, I just want to say that if any of our listeners, as we've come to an end, if you have questions, comments, product reviews, show or guest ideas, subscribe or email us at thenivestemplars@yahoo.com, or you can DM us on Facebook in the Knives Templars podcast group. Visit us at knivestemplars.com to stay up to date, see our new website. I also want you to know that we are sponsored by The Rivers Experience, Last Blade Standing, knife-wood.com, Ameribraid, and the Templars 100 for a savings off a machine, Majestic Forge, Byford's Guns, Pop's Knife Supplies, Maritime Knife Supply, and Phoenix Abrasives with 10% off with Templars 10 when you place your order. You can hear us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Anchor, Amazon, and CastBox. We hope you will join us. It's always a blessing to have you here. And we will see you on the next Knives Templars. Say goodnight, guys.
Good night, guys.
Hey, good night, guys.
Arrivederci.
We'll see you the next show. Good night.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Looking for a brand new or used firearm in or around Hartselle, Alabama? Head on down to Byford's Gun Shop and explore their latest offers and deals. On top of a great selection of high quality and affordable firearms to fit your needs, their staff will have you driving away with a smile. Byford's is a third-generation business that has been serving customers since 1971. Started by Joe and his father Ernest, the business continues to prosper well into the 21st century with Jeff Byford's knowledge and leadership. With brands like Benelli, Glock, Sig Sauer, and many others, you won't go wrong. Also check out their large selection of AR-15s and hunting rifles in many calibers. Byford's carries ammunition, special installation service, knives, accessories, transfers, and customer service that's second to none. Stop in and see them at 510 Main Street West in Hartselle, Alabama, or like them on Facebook at Byford's Gun Shop. Their team can be reached at 256-778-3111. That's Byford's Gun Shop, where they go the extra mile to satisfy your shopping experience. Head on over today. They'll be waiting for you with friendly faces.
Oleg Bashevic has been making stabilized wood and other supplies for knife makers for almost a decade. His stabilized wood products have been used by many of the best and most well-known knife makers in the world. This wood, when turned into knife parts, are stable to humidity, water, snow, oils, and other materials that would prematurely wear out a knife handle. He works out of his shop in Tula, Russia, and produces natural wood products that are as beautiful as Russia's famed Fabergé eggs. Knife makers around the world will tell you that his blocks should not be cut and placed on display. Oleg has distribution centers in Russia and in the United States. He's shipping right out of the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area, so if you're looking for something in the States, you can have it in just a few days. I guarantee you'll be excited to get your package that comes wrapped beautifully, already polished, so that you can see the most beautiful grain and colors that he impregnates into each piece of wood. You can find Oleg not only on Facebook, but you can also find him at knife-wood.com. That's knife-wood.com on the internet. Go out and take a look at Oleg's products. I'm guaranteeing you'll be happy to put them on your next knife.
Brought to you by Porkhouse Productions. Oinky oinky oinky.